So Jedi Survivor is only just around the corner now. We are only about 2 or so weeks away from the launch of the game. In fact, when this video goes up, I believe the game is actually less than 2 weeks away. So today I wanted to make a video going over everything that you guys should know before buying Survivor. There is a lot of information floating around out there around this game. It's a very large scale game compared to Fallen Order, and it's very easy to either miss a lot of things or kind of get like information overload. So I wanted to make like a one-stop shop video for all the key bits of information you guys should know before buying Survivor. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is going to be plenty more Survivor content in the lead up to launch as well as after launch too, so make sure you don't miss out on any of it. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now, the first key bit of information that you guys should know, which to be fair is probably fairly obvious by now, but I thought I should mention it anyway, is that the game is only available on next-gen consoles and PC. So if you're on PS4 or Xbox One, unfortunately you guys will not be able to buy the game on those platforms. Same goes obviously for something like the Nintendo Switch as well. It is only available on the PS5, the Xbox Series S and X, and the PC. And what I would also say is that I would definitely recommend a beefy PC. I'll pop it up on screen for you guys, the both minimum and recommended specs for Jedi Survivor. I dare say if you've got kind of like a mid-range PC, you will still be able to play it, but it may not run quite as well as you'd probably like it to, or you may have to turn down the graphics. So be sure to keep that in mind. The game looks absolutely amazing, but obviously with that comes potential performance issues if your PC isn't quite up there towards the high-end PCs. Now, something else that is worth keeping in mind, especially since the game is not too far away now, and we will be downloading the game in probably only about 10 or so days once pre-download becomes available, is that the game is about 150 gigabytes. Now, that is absolutely massive. I'm pretty sure Fallen Order was only about 40 gig or something like that. It may have ended up bigger after like updates and all that kind of thing, but I'm fairly sure at launch it was like 46 gig or something like that, and this one is essentially triple the size of that. And so I thought that was worth mentioning just so that you guys know to clear a bit of space on your hard drives, as well as like if you are going to be pre-downloading it, start pre-downloading the game as soon as you possibly can, because I don't know how good or bad your guys' internet is, but at least here in Australia, the internet is kinda arse, and I will be downloading this thing the literal minute that it goes live, because I do not want to be sitting there on launch day and everyone else is playing and I'm still downloading the game. So I definitely thought that that was worth mentioning as well. Now, one of the key issues for most people with the first game was that it was a very linear game, which, don't get me wrong, linear games still have a place in the single player sort of industry, but this game is definitely not quite as linear as the first game. Now, we'll still have linear moments. The story itself is still fairly linear, but in terms of the map design and stuff like that, the planets do, or at least the planet, because we only got to play on KOBOH, so I can't speak for all of them, but at least KOBOH itself feels almost like an open world map. I'm not even joking. It feels so open. Now, I dare say the other planets will be a lot less open than that. They'll probably be a lot more linear, and even KOBOH has its sort of areas where it will start to kind of like funnel you through a bit more of a linear area, so the whole planet is kind of fairly open. But then when you get to like the edge of the map, for example, there might be like a cave where once you're in the cave, that cave is obviously fairly linear, so it still has those linear elements to it, but overall it definitely felt a lot more open world, and that is something that I know a lot of people are going to be very excited about. In terms of the storyline, it seems like this story is going to be pretty nutty, if I'm going to be honest, and I mean that in a good way. It seems like there's going to be some pretty big implications to like all of Star Wars just based off of this game. Now, unfortunately, I can't really speak too much on the story from what we got to play in the play session. We are still NDA'd by EA and Respawn. There are certain things we just aren't allowed to say, which, to be honest, I wouldn't want to say anyway, because it would be a little bit on the spoiler side of things, and I just want to keep that a secret for you guys anyway. But just trust me, the story definitely feels like it's going to get pretty nutty. Now, we only got to play from about an hour into 3 or 4 hours into the game, so the story could have been really cool at the start, and then maybe at the end of the game it just sucks. I don't actually know, but if the story is kind of as cool as what we got to see for majority of the game, this story is going to be pretty mental. So if you're a big story buff, if that's why you're buying this game, to experience a really good story, then I dare say you guys are going to be in for a very fun time with Survivor. Something else that is worth knowing is that the combat in this game is way more advanced and sort of fluid than it was in Fallen Order, which says a lot because the combat in that game was pretty solid. It definitely had some like janky moments and some of the animations weren't perfect and stuff like that, but overall the sort of meat and potatoes of the combat in Fallen Order was really good, and it's even better in this game by a pretty drastic margin actually. Obviously the stances add a lot to that, but even just the regular single blade stance, it feels just more fluid. It just feels like the natural evolution of the combat in the first game, while the added stances, they obviously make the game feel way deeper, especially when it comes to the combat. So if you're big on the combat, and if that was something you guys liked in Fallen Order, I can assure you, you will love it even more in Survivor. Something else a lot of people had issues with in the first game was just how many puzzles there were, and the fact that they were kind of all on the critical path, which for those who don't know what critical path means, it essentially means you had to get past those puzzles to finish the game. You had to finish those puzzles to get to the next boss fight or get back to the Mantis or whatever the case was. That is much less common in this game, which is definitely a good thing. A lot of people that I know actually just kind of dropped the game because there was too many puzzles and they're not interested in the puzzles. For me personally, I do like the puzzles. Now, don't get me wrong, they get very frustrating because I am a bit of a dumbass most of the time. So there's a lot of times I'm kind of just sat there like, what the hell am I meant to be doing? They do get a bit frustrating, but also when you finish them, they feel really good. So I do like the puzzles, but I know a lot of people don't. And the good news for those guys is that the puzzles are a lot less common in this game, at least on the critical path. Anyway, there's still a lot of puzzles to be done, but they're all kind of just a bit more optional now. And they generally tend to end in like a proper reward. You get like some cool skins or a new perk or a new lightsaber hilt, for example. So that is definitely a positive change for me, and I think a lot of people are going to be very, very happy with that change as well. Now, another massive change that you guys may have seen, because this is probably one of the most talked about things since they've actually given us all this stuff to talk about, the customization in this game is absolutely mental. Obviously in the first game there was the whole pink poncho meme where the entire fan base was kind of just a bit like annoyed or disappointed in the fact that yes, there was customization, but it was definitely pretty poor. It was essentially just a bunch of ponchos that were all different colors. That is not the case in this game at all. There is full customization. You can change Cal's like jacket, you can change the shirt under the jacket, you can change his pants, you can even change his hairstyle and beard length and stuff like that. There's also then obviously the lightsaber customization, which is pretty much the same as it was in the first game, but just a bit more fleshed out. And now because you do have like two lightsabers, you can kind of customize each saber as well, and there's just a lot more options there as well. You can also fully customize BD1, not just his paint job, but just the way that each element of his body actually looks. You can change his eyes, you can change his ears, you can change his legs. It's actually pretty mental what you can do with BD1. And then even down to like the fact that you can do the rooftop garden thing on Greaser's Cantina. It's a very small thing, but like everyone's garden's going to look different. There's a lot of stuff in this game that is going to be completely customizable to how you want it to be, which is definitely a good thing for me. I'm a big customization buff. I love to be able to have a bunch of different options for how my characters look or how they play, for example. And if you guys are the same as that, then you are going to be very happy with this game, because even early on in the game, in the preview that we got, there was a lot of different customization options, a lot of which were really cool too. They're not just like a slight change. One of the skins that I actually equipped was almost slightly reminiscent of like Clone Wars armor. It wasn't fully the same, but it was like the sort of shoulder pauldrons and a cape on the back and stuff. It looked really cool. So definitely be excited if you guys are interested in customization. Another issue with Fallen Order was the sort of backtracking and the travel between, say, finishing a boss fight and trying to get back to the Mantis. It was very frustrating, especially on Zepho. I've actually just played that last week on stream, and genuinely I'm playing for the 8th time and I still got lost. That pretty much says all I need to say. That is not the case in this game. The backtracking is still there if you want to do it, but there is now fast travel. There are also the mounts which make travel a bit faster, and the actual map, like the, you know, you pull BD1 out into like map mode where he displays the map on the ground for you. Even that is a lot easier to read, so you can kind of tell where you need to be a lot easier. And so I don't think the backtracking is going to be an issue at all. There is still backtracking in terms of you'll get to an area and you kind of can't get to that yet. You have to go and progress the story, and then you have to backtrack to that location to get to that, you know, hidden secret or whatever. So that backtracking is still there, but in terms of backtracking back to the Mantis, for example, that is pretty much fixed, which is definitely a very positive change. Overall, really all I have to say about this game is that essentially if you even slightly liked Fallen Order, you will really like this game. It is pretty much everything that we loved about Fallen Order enhanced, and then all the things that we don't like, they have either fixed it, deleted it, or completely overhauled it. So it does feel like a true successor to Fallen Order. It feels like it's just bigger and better in every single way. There really is nothing negative that I have to say about the game. The only thing that I have to talk about in terms of the negative side of things is what I touched on earlier. If you do have sort of that mid-tier PC, you may struggle to get like super high frame rates and stuff like that. And I did make a full video on that if you guys want to check that out. But outside of that, there is honestly nothing that I have any concerns with or issues with in this game, at least from the 3 or 4 hours that I got to play anyway. Like I said, maybe once I finish the game, I'm going to say, wow, that was terrible. I don't know. I don't know what the rest of the game feels like, but if everything feels even 80% as good as what I got to play a few weeks ago in LA, this game will be an absolute banger. So, like I said, if you liked Fallen Order, or even if you just slightly liked it, be very excited. This game is going to be right up your alley, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it in less than 2 weeks now, which is pretty crazy to think. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you guys are new to the channel, definitely hit that subscribe button as well. I'm going to be covering the game very extensively after launch, showing you guys all the cool little tidbits and hidden secrets and all that kind of thing, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled on the channel. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.